OnStory is brought to you in part by the Alice Kleberg Reynolds Foundation, a Texas family providing innovative funding since 1979. OnStory is also brought to you in part by the Bogle Family Vineyards, 6th-generation farmers and 3rd-generation winemakers based in Clarksburg, California, makers of sustainably grown wines that are a reflection of their family values since 1968. From Austin Film Festival, this is OnStory, a look inside the creative process from today's leading writers, creators, and filmmakers. This week on OnStory, screenwriter Mark L. Smith discusses writing Twisters, the summer thriller film that took audiences by storm.
How does the science of a tornado and all of that, how do we do that in a somewhat interesting way? It was a way to get that info across, but also connect them even though they're not in the same car, and also show that they're very much alike, the way they think, that the way they process stuff, and that they're both really good. It'll be different things that send them on different paths possibly, but they both really know what they're doing.
What was the intent? Was it a serial? Was it a...
No, it wasn't like a sequel or like anything like that. It was just kind of its own standalone thing. Now the first draft I wrote, I had Kate go through everything, and when she finally returned home, she got to her house, pulls up, and you see someone working out in the field behind, and she walks around the back of the house and she goes, "Hey, Mom," and then it turns, and it was Helen Hunt's character. And so I was going to have her be their child that did it. But when I tried it, and then Joe and I talked about it for a while, there were so many different relationships that we were trying to make sure landed in the story. So we needed Kate and the loss of her boyfriend, the loss of Jeb at the beginning, that was going to weigh on her. And Bill Paxton, obviously that was going to be something because I'd played around with what she'd learned from her dad and everything. And so that was going to be a lot. And then to bring Tyler in and have that relationship, it just became muddled. And so it was just a cleaner thing to go the other route. And so I think it was nice that the way it worked out.
Ride velocity is 200 miles per hour.
That's impossible.
And this is an EF5.
Guys, whatever's in there is big. It's big and it's moving fast. Drive, gotta get the hell out of there.
Go! How did it become an EF5? It's getting closer! Oh, look out! Everybody okay?
It's a really long setup. I wanted to spend time with them for 2 reasons. One, so there might be a little surprise that you think this is going to be the group that we're going to be spending the movie with. Also, the idea that if we spend that extra time with them, when they're taken away, hopefully the audience would get the sense that maybe no one is safe. That's also an example of like, they were going to run to the underpass, and one of the producers, or maybe it was someone at Universal, said, "But that's the wrong move." And I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "But we need him to go somewhere, and we've got this." And Joe and I kind of all laid it out. And they go, "Well, we have to. People are going to think this is the right thing to do, and then we're going to get people killed." So they threw in that line, which I just hate. The underpass is the worst place to do in this thing, and it's like, oh my God. And but that's why that's there. Don't blame me.
That's kind of a cliffhanger open. Right? Like, I mean, it's a heartbreak right in the beginning of the movie, right? So it did give you a good sense of what might be deterring her.
So Isaac made the right call on this. It was too long. For a film, it worked on the page, but for a film, people would have got started. It's like, okay, let's go. It's an action movie. Let's get going.
The one thing that I also think is so great about this opening, and I don't know how you kept it up all the way through, but the pace never stops. It's just moving so fast. And when you're writing scenes like that are that long, I mean, are you ever thinking about that? Like you're in this.
It's just a way to try to let everything build kind of to a certain way and have a few jumps. You just try to mix things up so that you have a little bit of humor mixed in there. You have a little bit of everything, a little bit of character, and so hopefully it speeds along. If it was just relentlessly one thing, I think it would have gotten older fast. But that's credit to Isaac, who he just did a great job of directing it.
So I have to start out saying that I just think it's interesting that the person who did The Revenant did this. I also think that's kind of interesting, though, that he came from, because the movie he did prior to that is so different.
Yeah. No.
So different than this film. He's going to get a tornado.
It's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
You can write any genre. And so I remember right after The Revenant, I'd never met Ryan Reynolds, and he called me out of the blue. And he said, I've got this movie. We're shooting in 10 days. The script's not going to work. And can you come to London and write it? And we'll just write it together. And I said, sure. And he said, because I love The Revenant. I said, okay, sure. What is it about? He goes, well, it's a buddy cop movie, and it's in London, and it's all this jokes, and it's just going to be these pranks and stuff. And I said, are you sure you saw The Revenant? Because it's like, I haven't done that. And but I got over there, and it was so fun. And it was just he and I, like in his dressing room, we were just writing. And we would write the scenes, shoot them the next day. And it was just a conveyor belt. And when I told my wife I was writing in Ryan Reynolds' dressing room, she immediately signed up for a screenwriting class. So,
hang on. You didn't say which way we were going yet. Now, from what I gather, west, we double our chances. East, well, it's high risk, high reward.
Well, go for the reward. You don't want Ben to think you're boring.
Now, boring is not usually a problem for me, Kate.
Two cells to the west are fighting over the same inflow. They'll choke each other out. This one to the east is the sky all to herself. Moisture, wind shear, instability. All the things you need to give Ben a good show.
Well, city girl knows her stuff, Ben. I said city girl knows her stuff, Ben.
Thanks. Maybe if I work real hard, I could be a tornado wrangler, too.
Okay, there's your sort of meet cute.
that's the meet cute. Yeah, that's what that is.
We've now reset your movie from this pure action to a romantic comedy. There's a bit of a mashup here,
This was just about establishing characters and relationships and the dynamics between them so that you could see that Kate wasn't really impressed by Tyler like everyone else, but Tyler was a little, it was unusual for him. This was somebody that's kind of mysterious and isn't impressed. Why not? Why isn't she? And so it's so just to kind of set that up and then also show, that they both had knowledge. They were both going to be, be good at this. And so it's it's just a stepping stone to the relationship.
But building that relationship around, again, all that action. I mean, they're in some of it together and some of it not. So,
Yeah, I think one of these scenes that we're doing today was actually it's my favorite one in the film, that combines them. We had to try to get the science across. And so it was like, how does the science of a tornado and all of that, how do we do that in a somewhat interesting way? So it was a way to get that info across, but also connect them even though they're not in the same car, and also show that they're very much alike, the way they think, that the way they process stuff, and that they're both really good. It'll be different things that send them down different paths possibly, but they both really know what they're doing.
Why is it important to get all that science out there? Like, how much of it becomes part of something important to the way people are going to consume the rest of your film?
It was showing the love, how much they know, but how much they love this, how much that they, the way they describe it, it wasn't just super technical terms. It was just, and so that was a way. And I guess we always felt like there was a, if we could get in there quickly and people wouldn't get bored, somebody might have some interest in, how these things kind of happen.
Did you spend a lot of time on your own trying to figure out, or avoiding writing the script by trying to figure out how much much weather information you needed to know?
I did. I actually went storm chasing with a guy in Oklahoma, and Reed Timmer, who is so good, and you can see him online. He's just, he is crazy. I learned a lot just them, and what Reed is kind of he was kind of who I based Tyler on, And because we would stop for gas, and we had a little, like 3 vehicles, the drone driver, and kind of similar to that. And we'd get out and our car was just beat, and it was because the hail and the stuff all the storms he'd gone through, and people would just swarm him. And at the gas stations, there's just a community, and so it's like, and he is so well known, and they would just ask where he's going, what he's seeing, but no, he would drive more than the storms he took me into. Was him driving 100 miles an hour across these side roads in Oklahoma with his phone in one hand with a radar thing here. He's looking out at the things and he's kind of steering with his knee. And it was just like, my God, just take me home. But it was, I learned a lot from that. And just from the group, because they're quirky. There's it's an interesting group.
At what point were you doing that you were driving? Before you wrote the script? Or?
Oh, yeah. Before I ever started the script. I had to know how they developed because we had to come up with a way to stop them. So it was like, okay, I had to learn everything to know how to make them go away. So that was part of it. And that was part of the reason for the explanation too. Like the little things you get, and maybe they don't stick with everybody. 90% of people might not. But putting it in there is then the stuff that they're going to work to take away from it later when they try to stop it.
So, but I mean, as far as character development and stuff like that, was some of that coming from that experience too? Like just from hanging out with all those guys and seeing how they integrate with each other on something like this? Yeah.
No, it's absolutely just the kind of the wisecracking, just kind of, giving each other all the time but having fun. It's just like a really, a very carefree group.
How did they feel about you directing people to an underpass?
I haven't talked to them about that. Yeah, so that's kind of the thing where we're trying to mimic a little bit of what we saw the first time, all the way down to hearing someone say it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And so we didn't want Tyler to say it, but just to kind of give the same feel, like, and then you feel like there is some jeopardy there that, oh, wait a second, is this going to happen all over again?
And even though we know these two people are leads, you can even know what's going to happen and the tension can still be there.
I got the idea from one of the experts I spoke to, that he went on I think it was in Georgia or something, a night. They were chasing a storm and everything got really quiet and stuff started the leaves just started kind of falling, but they couldn't hear anything or see anything. And so then we put it in the rodeo where stuff starts falling there, and then we just carried it on. And that was actually, so when they go to the motel and there's the young couple complaining and the one girl, so that the young girl, that's my daughter. And but her boyfriend in it is Bill Paxton's son. And so
Oh my God.
And so so we wanted to get them kind of there. Yeah.
Before we go to the next one, I'm just also curious, like that pacing all the way through the movie, because it was tense for a lot of the film. How were you laying that out strategically on some kind of document about where you're going to have where you're going to let people breathe a little bit?
I'm ridiculously structural kind of creature. Everything has its place for me. That's the only way I can kind of tell a story. And so, so all of that was purposeful, and it felt like this is where this had to happen. This is where this needs to happen. And the script, there was more air between the action. There was more downtime. As much as I love the character stuff, and I would fight to try to hold on to it, it's like it's an action film.
So a lot of that pacing changed in the edit.
Yeah, even Spielberg came in late and pulled like an extra 7 minutes out of different places. And
curious where?
Just little different moments between Tyler and Kate. Just a little bit here, a little bit there, a minute here, a minute there. Not like a huge chunk in one spot, but it was just to find that, no one has a better feel for like what audiences I think like in those kind of films than him.
You know, EF1 or EF5 tornado rating. It's not based on size or wind speed. The power we ascribe to it, it's based on damage. That's only after the fact we can really define it. What it destroys, what it takes from us. I'm sorry for what happened. But how much more are you gonna let this thing take from you?
You know, you should get some sleep.
Going off of my structure thing, so end of Act 2 is kind of the, you know, when that everything was destroyed and she's there and she kind of realizes that what Mason has been doing, you know, her friend, and she leaves. And so this is kind of the beginning of, as we're going to come back, because she's going to, like, you know, re-enter the battle kind of thing. And I did not write the Glenn Powell in the wet t-shirt scene. That was decided on the moment, I guess. But
The way I look at that scene is it's the moment where we're all supposed to finally fall in love with Glenn Powell.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, no, you finally see that, just the fact that he came to the farm, came and found her. It's like, it's like, wait a second, this guy's different. And so that was a sequence that was much longer in the script, not just in the barn, but the time that they spent together. There was a little bit more growth, a little bit more interaction.
So you lost some of that character opportunity.
Yeah.
So, but I will say, because I think that's a tough juggle. I mean, to juggle an action movie, like this big action movie, and a love story, because the love story tends to need some quiet time, right? And that's a lot. Those are two distinct genres, really. We
had spent so much time with Jeb, her boyfriend, in the beginning, and it wasn't that long ago in movie time. So I knew from the moment I wrote it, they were never going to be a couple by the end of it. Not a true. We weren't going to have them, you know, completely fall in love. She wasn't going to be ready to do that yet, and so I didn't have to lean into all the thing. And actually, what made it hard, along with all of the action, we don't meet him until 20-some minutes into the movie, and then at the beginning, they're not together a lot. And it's really contentious when they are. So it's it was hard, you know. It was like if it was going to be a true kind of romantic comedy kind of thing, you know, we would have had to play it differently. I took my teenage daughter and her girlfriend, and they were very upset that no kiss happened at the end. I've had that so many times. It's crazy. Okay, here in the script, there was another scene. There was actually another little mini storm, a mini accident, and but before that happened, they were talking. And he leaned in and they kissed briefly. And then she pulled away. She said, I can't, I'm not ready. I can't yet. And so that was it. So we got that. And that was before kind of the final two chases, I guess. Yeah. When you get that director's cut back out, yeah, I actually let me know. I'm going to let my daughter. Isaac filmed it or not, because I know he's taking a lot of heat for the no kiss too. Yeah. So that one I knew from the beginning I was always going to put him in a movie theater. And I always wanted the wall to come out behind the screen. And so it was like we were kind of like watching it. It was kind of a little bit of homage to the, was it The Shining? I think in the original, where the drive-in and the storm came through. And but I just thought it would be fun to actually like watch a storm like you're watching a movie, you know, through the thing. So that was yeah, so that's why we put it there, and that's why. And again, it was a repeat where, and maybe it would have worked the same either way, but the fact that we lost those people at the beginning and we kind of invested in them and spent that time with them, that Lily right there probably kind of thought maybe she's going to go too. You know, just it gives a little bit more like, oh God, could that happen?
That whole sequence that started before that took you through the movie theater and then back out into the field. That from you know, we do live in Tornado Alley here. The destruction in this film was, I think, sort of what took me in emotionally.
We shot it in Reno, Oklahoma, outside Oklahoma City, which has had a bad history of, you know, and stuff. So it was a little bit, you know, it was kind of strange. They were excited that we were there doing it, and we were trying to be, you know, very respectful of it. But it was also kind of like tough too, because they have lived it. You know?
There's so many pieces in here that are, you know, obviously. And we know these are CGI. Were you brought into any of that at all, or you just
No. By the time they finished shooting, they forgot you wrote it. I mean, and that's the truth. And it's just because they go months and months of all the hard work of the production.
But are those set pieces usually known before? You are still, especially in a film like this, was the development process one where they're telling you we're going to have at least 4 tornadoes and you just got to write around them, or you're creating that still? Once
we established with the first huge one at the beginning, then it was like, okay, we need the slow build, and so people can kind of learn get a feel for the world, learn about these storms, kind of watch them have an adventure with them first. So it was going to be, I actually had in the script, it was another thing that was cut early on, and Isaac may not have even filmed it. It was more of a build-up one, getting to it, a smaller one. And so that we were kind of dipping our toe in. Each one, you're right, it was tricky to make them different, it's like, okay, God, it's just another storm. And so part of it was, okay, I'll do this then. I'll have Isaac, I'm sorry, that's another show. I'll have Tyler think he's smarter. You know, it's a competition. So when they're talking about it, then you know, she screws up, he's going on because he's, you know, and so you kind of have to have fun with it then, you know, and just do it different ways. So it's just trying to add something to each one to make them feel a little different, but they're kind of the same. They built it off the script. Nobody knew what was coming whenever I turned the draft in. They had no idea. They weren't even sure they were going to make the movie. It was like not even a thing that was really that exciting. But then Steven Spielberg really liked the draft, and so that's kind of what got the momentum for it to happen so fast.
Where did Boys in the Boat fit into? Boys
in the Boat was my favorite thing I've ever written by far, not even close. That is one where you do lose a lot from the script. That one kind of hurt in certain things because, and it's just a thing. It was a long story. I think I gave George, it was like 170 pages or something. So it was gonna be a 2.5, 3 hour movie. And so, but there was so much story there, and there was so much, every one of those boys, every character had so much backstory and so much thing. And I really wanted it to be more than just one, focus on one and a couple, but it worked for what it was. It's hard for me to watch, at least the first time, because all I see in a movie is everything that isn't there, everything that was changed, or everything that was taken out. And so, so that then it's like the next time it's like, okay, I can appreciate now why they did it and why the things, and so then it's good. And so it would have been a long movie, and it would have been a slower movie if they had done all the character stuff.
So from start to finish, how long did it take to do this?
Year?
No way, really?
I think.
Wow, that's amazing.
Something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. I write fast. I lock myself away and I just write. And so it was, I think the draft was, it's like a month, and then I just hand it over, and then they do their thing. You know, I think I had one studio rewrite on it.
Well, is it more fun writing an action film like this?
In some ways, it might be easier because you know where the beats are going to kind of be. You know where the scenes are going to need to fall, kind of when things are going to have to happen. I mean, you're kind of locked in on an action film. You know, these things have to happen, and you try to squeeze in as much character stuff as you can.
Do you have to understand your characters before you're sitting down to write them?
I don't know my characters until I've written it. No, yeah. So I discover the characters as I'm writing. Mm-hmm. And so I'll know where I wanted them to start, like I said, and then I'll write 15, 20 pages, and I'll go back and it's like, okay, now I know who you are.
Moisture levels are just right and lots of cape.
What else are you seeing?
Flow is clean, pulling tons of warm, moist air from the south.
And when that warm air and moisture busts through the cap, it explodes in the atmosphere, creating an anvil. The vertical wind shear begins to rotate the updraft, forming a mesocyclone.
And here's the mystery.
We don't know how a tornado forms. We see the hook on the radar, but
What are all the invisible factors coming together? Every little detail that
it has to be perfect. And it's a mix of what we know and everything we can't understand. It's part science, part religion. Come on, baby.
You've been watching Script to Screen, Twisters on OnStory. OnStory is part of a growing number of programs in Austin Film Festival's OnStory project that also includes the OnStory radio program, podcast, book series, and the OnStory archive, accessible through the Whitliff Collections at Texas State University. To find out more about OnStory and Austin Film Festival, visit onstory.tv or austinfilmfestival.com.